Hey friends, you're listening to the If Only I Were Wiser podcast with Raina Wilson, where wisdom and real life stories inspire and equip women to make the best choices for themselves and their families. In a world where it's easy to always feel like you're falling short, whether your health journey looks different than others or you're juggling a million things, this space is for you. This show is so much more than just wellness information. We're not here to add to the noise. Instead, we're here to equip you with wisdom in the areas you wish you were wiser, so you can find hope and joy as you navigate your unique healing journey. So grab a cup of coffee or turn up the volume over the sound of dishes and kiddos. Let's talk about what it really looks like to care for yourself and for the ones you love with grace, intention, and faith. Hi friends, welcome back to the If Only I Were Wiser podcast. On today's episode, we have Marisa Hissong. Marisa is a wife and mama who shares her whole healing story and what it was like for her trying to conceive in her family, and truly how homeopathy changed her life. In this episode, she helps us unpack this modality with a greater understanding of its versatility, energetic depth, and so many encouraging healing testimonies. If you've been curious about homeopathy, this is your 101 learning episode, so let's go ahead and dive in. Hello, Marisa. Welcome to the If Only I Were Wiser podcast.
Yeah, hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's so crazy to think. I think Marisa and I met, 2 years ago? Almost 3 years ago?
Yep.
Isn't that insane?
Crazy. And we met at the Freely Rooted retreat.
Yeah, it was just, and that was just like a huge blessing for me to get there in the first place. But yeah, we met at this like women's wellness retreat. And honestly, like I still think about it. Like I was dreaming about the food the other day.
I know. It was so great, but I'm so glad to reconnect with you, and I've loved listening to the podcast too.
Awesome. Well, I have just loved since then getting to see you kind of take off in your own sphere of influence, getting to share about what you're passionate about, and that is all things homeopathy. And I love that you approach it from a motherhood, family-oriented perspective. So before we get into the nitty-gritty details of what is homeopathy and this voodoo witchcraft, apparently, that's what my husband calls all of our holistic options. It's like our voodoo witchcraft solutions. But just share a little bit about you, your family, and what does life look like right now?
Yes. So I am from Michigan, born and raised, and my husband and I have been married for coming up on 5 years, and we just celebrated my son's first birthday in December. So
wow.
Yeah, so crazy. I'm in like the thick of motherhood right now, and growing my business as well. So trying to balance all of the things, but it's been a beautiful, fruitful season, and I'm so thankful. But yeah, I guess just some background on me too. I always grew up more like holistic and grew up playing sports, very active life. I played volleyball in college, and so I've always been in the holistic sphere. And when I learned about homeopathy, I could not believe that this was something I hadn't explored sooner. And I feel like if you're really tapped into the holistic health space, some people know about homeopathy and some people don't. So I really just want to bring awareness to options that are available that can really be supportive to the body and recalibrate the system like nothing I've ever seen before. So, that's a little bit about me, life right now, like I said, motherhood, and it's very cold here, so we're trying to get outside as much as we can, but I feel like by the time summer hits in Michigan, we definitely soak up all the sunshine we can outside.
Yeah, every minute of it. Yeah. Here, we're in Louisiana, so it's like disgustingly wet already, and our summer will be here in April.
Yeah.
So I'm like trying to hoard up these cold winter months where I can like just sit on the couch versus bake outside.
For sure.
So, would you say it was like your entrance into like falling into holistic health? Like, what did it look like for you to get from the introduction to homeopathy that you were like, oh no, people really need this?
Yes. So I kind of have a long journey. I would say when I went to college and I played volleyball, and all the girls on the team were on birth control. And I remember I was not. And they were all floored by that. Like, a lot of the girls were like, how are you not on birth control? You know, it helps with X, Y, and Z. And that
Yeah.
was something, you know, I ended up trying it for 2 months and I absolutely hated it. And then I looked further into it and I'm like, okay, what are the risks versus benefits? Why would
Sure.
somebody want to do it? And that's what really was the catalyst for researching pharmaceuticals and learning more about that and just taking that food first approach. And with that,
Right.
you know, I ended up graduating college, and since I was such an avid researcher of pharmaceuticals, and even like my trainer would give me a Tylenol, and I remember one time it was like Tylenol for a headache, and I actually threw the Tylenol out, and she came up to me and was like, I think I saw you throw the Tylenol out. And I was like, you know, I have this headache, but I felt like, you know, my body is naturally creating this response, and I don't need to suppress it. I need to find how to best support it. So I always had that mindset, but I didn't really know, you know, the background behind it. So avid researcher of pharmaceuticals, come to graduate. It's only right that, you know, pharmaceutical sales is a good fit, right? I like the health aspect of it. I like researching. You know, I feel like I could be very well-rounded and risk versus benefit for a physician. Yeah. And anyway, got into pharmaceutical sales with more of a startup company, and they were incredible to work for, but learned a lot about the business behind healthcare. And that was so eye-opening to me, that you really are your best health advocate. And, you know, I was seeing these patients who were, you know, maintaining or just suffering, not finding the root cause, not finding relief. And it really encouraged me to go back to school, study nutrition. And I knew there was, you know, this food approach and how food and herbs could help support the body. So while I had that job, I actually went back to school for nutrition, learned that. And then while doing nutrition and supporting clients through that process, I noticed, you know, somebody could have the perfect diet, you know, eating well, living a good lifestyle, but they still could have some chronic conditions that we just weren't able to find relief for. And that was the thing where I was kind of like, you know, there's something more. You know, if somebody is living that healthy lifestyle, they're eating really well, you know, I truly believe that that should be able to get them to a really healthy state. But I still had those situations where, you know, there were still some debilitating symptoms for people. And anyway, down the road, my husband and I are ready to start a family, and I live a very holistic lifestyle. You know, we incorporate movement, low stress, all the things.
Yeah, all the things.
And we struggled to get pregnant, and nobody ever thinks they're going to walk that path. Like, nobody goes into it prepared or thinking that that's going to be my situation. And throughout that process, you know, I tried all the things. I did the naturopath, the bioresonance, the, you know, you name it, we had done it, and we were living a good lifestyle, like unexplained infertility, right? Everything comes back normal, great, you're healthy. And when you look at reproducing, your body is not going to reproduce if it is not safe, if it's not, you know, in a healthy state. It's just not. And that could be like because of, you know, energetic blocks, genetic features.
Any number of things. Yeah,
exactly. You know, there's a multitude of different reasons that, you know, somebody might not fall pregnant. And I think when I had gone through that situation and we were looking for answers, I wanted to do it naturally. I wanted my body to be able to naturally be able to conceive and go through a pregnancy. I wanted to do a home birth. So I wanted everything to be natural and just right. God designed us in that way. And I wanted to be able to do that. So as we were searching for answers, and I kept seeing homeopathy, and I kept, I don't really know much about homeopathy. I feel like you can use it for cold and flu, but, chronic conditions, I hadn't even thought about that. And needless to say, we met with a homeopath, Marisa, who's actually based out of Australia, and she's phenomenal. We did our individual protocol. And with homeopathy for more chronic conditions, it's not so much like, oh, I have PCOS, here's a remedy, or I have this condition, here's a remedy.
Right.
When you get into chronic conditions, it's taking the entire person. So it's your physical symptoms, your emotional, your mental, your family history, things that you're more susceptible to. I mean, it's like a very in-depth consultation. And it's so that we can pair a remedy specific to you. So it looks different for everybody, which I loved, the individualized approach.
Right.
Because as we know, conventional medicine, a lot of times it's a one size fits all. Oh, you have this diagnosis, here's your treatment. And anyway, we did the protocol, and I had 2 cycles, and then we conceived.
Wow.
And it was the most pivotal moment in my life where I said, we have exhausted all the options, and I want to be able to help support people through this process, because fertility rates are on the decline, and people need homeopathy and just healing more than ever before. And like I said, homeopathy can recalibrate the system, both physically and mentally, emotionally, more than anything I've seen. And like I said, I feel like I've done all of the things before. So anyway, that's kind of where we got to, where we're currently at. Then from there, I devoted my entire career to homeopathy, supporting women and males who are dealing with fertility. And I feel like that's something too. We always focus so much on the female, but it takes 2, and you have to go through it together. And I think, even walking through the journey with clients and seeing how their relationship grows just through going through the experience of, talking about all of this and working together and getting on the same page. And I think it helps them hold each other accountable and go through the process together, because it's not a one-side thing. And, anyway, that's kind of a little bit more on the backstory of where I got where I am today. And I am clearly so passionate about just educating people on homeopathy and the options that are available.
Yeah, no, I am so thankful you shared that, because it definitely resonates with our own story as we've been trying to conceive. Because even in holistic health, I think you go from Western medicine, or at least in our case, you go from Western medicine to this didn't work for us, right? Like for any number of reasons, to holistic health, we're like, this must have all the options. But then you're inundated with these oils, these foods, throw beef liver at it, and then it'll solve all your problems, right? And then you're not getting pregnant. And you're almost looking at holistic health in the same way that you're looking at Western medicine. And it's like, what the heck, guys? So I love that homeopathy is this bridge almost between the two, to be able to approach you from a holistic, whole body, whole person lens, but use the allopathic model of intentionality, I think, of like, let's look at this one thing, whether it is emotional block, whether it is like a thyroid issue. Like, let's look at this one thing and dissect it amongst everything else. So as we get into this conversation, I think it would just be super helpful to lay out like a good foundation. Like if you're sitting across from someone that has never heard of homeopathy, or like my first impression when we got started was those little, what are they? Like the little balls and the little tubes at Sprouts, that's homeopathy. So if you could just start by laying out what this modality even looks like.
Yes, absolutely. So And I know, especially when it comes to homeopathy, if it's newer to you, this is how I always like to explain it. So it is its own system of medicine. It's not essential oils, it's not herbs.
Okay.
It's a system of medicine.
Right.
And it stimulates your body's ability to heal itself. What I mean by that is when you get a paper cut, your body naturally heals itself, right? Whether you put ointment on it, you put a Band-Aid, you do nothing, your paper cut will heal. That is our God-given innate ability to heal, right? And that's within all of us. Now you think of some of these chronic conditions, right? And you're like, my body can heal itself. Okay. Like I've had thyroid issues for years. And oftentimes there's a lot of signals that have come up before then, right? Symptoms that have arose where maybe we suppressed it. Emotional things that have come up and we've suppressed those emotions. We know that emotions, when you hold on to certain emotions, they can show up as physical symptoms, right? So there's all this history and maybe you live a holistic lifestyle, but also you look back on when you were a child and things you were exposed to in the environment and,
or what does your marriage look like right now?
Exactly, right? So, you have this whole history. What homeopathy does is it stimulates that ability to heal. And it's an energetic form of medicine. So when you think of when the sperm meets the egg, there's that burst of energy. We are energy before we are anything else. Yeah. And I understand, especially I was in the holistic health space, been in it for a long time. When somebody threw around the word energy, I'm like, okay, I'm not here for that. I don't know what modality that is, but that's not for me.
Sure.
But when you actually look at it, you look at a Wi-Fi router, right? We believe in energy because a Wi-Fi router, there's no cord, but energetically it does that. Even back to old science projects. If I touch one side of, a table and then I touch another and a light turns on, that's you're using your energy.
Right.
And I think there's been this it goes back to the suppression of homeopathy. I truly believe where people are still trying to say that's new age or, that's, whatever it is. And it's not, it's working with the body. When we look at conventional medicine, you get a fever, we're going to give you something to reduce the fever.
Right.
Now you look at homeopathy, you have a fever, we're going to give you something to stimulate your body, strengthen your body to naturally be able to bring down the fever when your body is ready. And that is supporting you through the process instead of saying, body, no, that's wrong. I'm not supposed to have a fever right now. And that goes to, swollen ankle. No, let's stop the swelling. Hey, no, let's support your body to be able to do what it needs to do to heal that issue. Yeah. And I think, at the very root core of what homeopathy is it's getting to the root cause and working to heal and support your system. And it's like nothing else.
Yeah, which you might have even answered this question, but where does homeopathy benefit over supplementation? So you've got a client, or if I'm sitting across from you, it's like, Marisa, I've done all the health things. Yep. I know the health things. How would you talk to me about the benefits of homeopathy compared to supplementation or essential oils or some of these other modalities that holistic health preaches?
Yep. Absolutely. So I think especially if you have a nutrient dense diet and you feel from a diet perspective, I'm good. I'm supplementing the things that I need to, why isn't this happening? Yeah. I think a couple things. So even when we think of absorption and assimilation, getting the nutrients where they need to go, absorbing everything, that is more your system functionality. When we look at something like homeopathy, this can strengthen that, right? So it can strengthen your actual foundation, the system, where it's not a supplement where, I need more vitamin C, I'm going to take, vitamin C. It's let's recalibrate your system. Let's strengthen your body, your systems, it works on such that energetic level that it can work to do what it needs to do. If you need to, detox your liver more, you're going to support your body to be able to have an optimally functioning liver, right? It's supporting it to be able to do that. So it isn't like supplements. It's not like, diet, but it helps in the processes of that. And when you think of something like, a thyroid not functioning optimally, this is something that homeopathy can support too.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for that clarity, because I think that's what people think is like, it's just another thing, right? Like, oh, well, I just need to add in homeopathy on top of my detox protocol on top, it's a throwing something at it to like cut it at the knees, whatever your symptomology is, versus no, like this will help your body actually process what it needs to process so we can actually heal.
I was going to say, and the good thing about it is it's not like, oh, you're going to be on homeopathy for the next, couple years. It works to recalibrate your system. And then once we've done that, you're good. You're all set. Now you can use and that's for chronic conditions. So there's nothing where we'll maintain your condition with homeopathy, right? That's a very Western minded of, hey, here's your condition. You need to continue to take homeopathy. It works to strengthen your body, heal it from the root, and then, you're on your way. And if acutes come up, right, you get a cold, a flu, that can help support your body through it. But even in those chronic conditions, it's not something where it's like, okay, here's my supplement regimen. Here's this. I'm on it forever.
Yeah. Okay. That's super encouraging too, because I think people, especially coming in with chronic conditions, are maybe coming to you from the perspective of like, this is just the next thing I'm going to try for the next couple years, versus it being the foundation of the solution. Yeah. This might be a dumb question, but like, what does it look like? Is it drops in the morning? Is it those little balls in the tubes? What does it look like?
So both. So those are just two different forms. So the pills have the remedy on it. So it's actually like if you were to go to the grocery store, which most of you, if you're just starting out with homeopathy, like you're going to find it down the grocery aisle. So with that, you're going to have the pillules, and on the outside of them, the coating of them are going to be that homeopathic remedy. So especially when you're taking the pillules from the store, you don't want to, if I'm giving it to my son or administering it to my son, I don't want to touch the pillules. You use the cap, twist it, and then pour it back. So that is one form. Another form is liquid. So with my fertility clients, my chronic clients that I see, or even just in acute, I use the liquid. So it has the remedy preserved in organic brandy. So they're just two different options. So yes, for my clients, you shake the bottle and then you put a couple drops under your tongue. Depending on what your remedy is and your protocol, it could be in the morning, the night, a couple days a week, etc. So it kind of varies there.
Yeah, no, that's super helpful. We're dipping our toes into it because we would love to approach it as like a whole system, whole home kind of first defense. But my son gets really excited when he gets to eat his like little balls in the morning out of the cap. He thinks it's the most fun thing.
Yes.
So I was just curious about what other forms might be good to add in. But one of the things you touched on at the beginning was, and I would totally agree because it's where our family got started, it was the acute solution. It's like, great, I don't want to pop a Tylenol. I heard these pillules might be the solution. Let me go read all the tags that might help out. What are some of your favorite ways to start with homeopathy? Because I didn't realize it's not just it's not an immune solution. It's a whole body solution.
Exactly. Yep. So I would say if you're brand new to homeopathy and you just want to start out, you're listening and you're like, okay, let me just swap out Tylenol. Just find something easy to swap out, whatever it is, right? I have the pharmaceutical background. So I actually created a homeopathic medicine kit to be a solution to replace your medicine cabinet. So it has everything in there. But I think even keep it simple, right? If you're just starting out, you want to get used to it. Find a an easy alternative. So something like that, you get the homeopathic remedy at the grocery store. And when you have that symptom, whatever it may be, right? If it's, a headache, a throbbing headache, and you might take belladonna, have that remedy at home. And next time you get it, use homeopathy first. See what happens. And you always have your backup solution, but you likely will not need it, with the homeopathy. But I think there's a couple different layers too. Like when you go to the homeopathic section in your grocery store or health food store, there's a lot of confusion of like 30C, 200C. Yeah. What does that mean?
What am I supposed to grab? Yeah,
exactly. And 30C is going to work more on that physical level when you think of more emotional aspect as well. So if there's physical and emotional, that can be good for 200C. So I always say it's almost like depth of action within the body, right? So 6C is going to be that close to the surface. Like, I got a bee sting. You could use something like that. And then, as you get deeper into the body, that's where you can go higher in the potency because you're reaching deeper. Now, with my remedies that I use, it has 10 potencies in one. So essentially, what the benefit to that is with homeopathy, you want to get the remedy right and the potency right to experience the best relief. So there's some people who have said, oh yeah, I've used homeopathy and I had a really bad headache and maybe it didn't work for you for that headache. Usually it's because you either have the wrong remedy or the wrong potency. So interesting. With the 10 potencies in one, we are unique beings. We're very complex and we're all very individualized. So I like that because it takes the complexity out for the consumer of saying, okay, here's my condition, here's my symptom, figuring out the potency and all of that is just another thing. It's to make it, can be more difficult for people. So I liked the option of having the multiple in one. And when you think of acutes too, so we're used to allopathic medicine of, oh gosh, like what happens if I take the wrong remedy or the wrong dose? Right. Like, am I going to overdose or hurt? Yeah. And with this, since it is energetic medicine, right, it will either resonate with your body and heal it or nothing will happen, right? So that can give you the confidence as you kind of go and you start dipping your toes where it's, okay, my son, he has, a sore throat. What remedy should I use? Use the one that's best suited based on their symptoms. Give it to your son, see how he does. And I feel like that's a big thing where people are like, oh gosh, if I give him the wrong remedy, will something terrible happen? And it's not like the allopathic form. So, but I do recommend, like, if you're new to it, it is worth getting a kit and just seeing like, here's the symptoms. It'll tell you what remedy to use, how to dose it. So it gives you that confidence. You start getting more comfortable as you start, helping your family and your own symptoms that arise. And that can definitely help. Like I said, that's for acute. When you get into chronic conditions and we have like clients who are taking remedies for longer periods of time, like a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever it may be, that's where you can get, obviously we don't want somebody dosing that long without
by themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the only hang up as far as that goes.
For sure. What would you say are some of the places that you could try homeopathy that maybe people aren't thinking about? So we've talked about fertility. I didn't even think about that for fertility. Immune, chronic symptoms. What are other places that people could add this in and aren't even considering it?
Yes. So definitely fertility, autoimmune, SIBO, like gut issues, skin conditions where you're like, hey, I've tried all the topicals, all the everything. Eczema, asthma. I mean, the list goes on. And that's why Western medicine, right, I think there's a time and place for it. If I was in a car accident, life or death, I needed surgery. That
Right.
is where Western medicine shines. Like, I would want to be there and be
Mm-hmm.
under their care. Now, when you look at acute cold and flu, chronic conditions, this was never designed for Western medicine. It just wasn't. But as it's developed into that, you know, that's where we're maintaining things. But I mean, really, any chronic condition can be supported through homeopathy. And those are just some of the examples. But we even talk about, you know, the direction of cure. I don't know if you've heard of that now.
No.
It's very familiar in like the homeopathic world. And I've seen it multiple times with clients, but it's that you heal from head to toe, most vital organs to least vital organs, and inside to out. So an example of this is, and maybe like you or somebody listening can think about this, when you're a child, maybe you had eczema and we use steroid cream, right? Try to get rid of that eczema. What you are doing is you're suppressing it and pushing it back into the body. So your eczema might be gone, but a lot of times we see this develop into asthma. Now it's gone from the skin, right? A not so vital organ to you're pushing it into the body. Now it's gone to a more vital organ. So we'll see a lot of these tendencies of, you know, somebody saying, oh yeah, when I was younger, I had really bad eczema and now I have asthma. And it's not always that case, but there's multiple cases of those symptoms. And when you think of the opposite of that, right? The direction of disease, it goes from bottom up, right? Inside, or like your skin to your internal organs. And that's where we're in this chronic condition where we've really suppressed the body and we keep telling it, you know, not on the skin, push it in, instead of let's support the body. You have eczema, let's strengthen your body to be able to heal that eczema, and then it's gone and you don't have to deal with it. So I think that's like a whole nother layer when you think of just healing and, you know, how homeopathy works for that.
Yeah, for sure. What would this be a solution in supporting your body in pregnancy and postpartum? And what would that look like? Because pregnancy is a whole other realm. So I would assume we'd have to be sensitive in homeopathy. But if it's energetic, your baby's energetic too. Yes. What does that look like?
Absolutely. So a lot like morning sickness or those symptoms that arise through pregnancy, you can absolutely use homeopathy. It is safe for pregnancy, breastfeeding, newborns, because it is that energetic system of medicine, which is so beautiful that we have these options that are available that I think not many people know about, especially through pregnancy. Postpartum, it is incredible. Especially, right, you think of just the healing, the emotional component and caring for a newborn, and you guys are trying to learn each other, and just the routine has shifted in the home. Right. And even just like if you have an older child who they're adapting to the environment as well, it's a really beautiful time to help support everyone's body emotionally, physically as you go through that process. And I think, you know, I have like a birth recovery blend that helps support, you know, tissue healing, the emotional aspect. When you think of giving birth to a baby, you have the biggest drop off of hormones. And how do we support our body through that? And we know nourishment is so important, and foods and having that. But on the other aspect, like the emotional component, I think that's where homeopathy can really help support through that process. I mean, there's sepia is a great remedy, especially for those hormonal balances. Arnica, when we're thinking that tissue repair. Staphysagria, you know, some people, their pregnancy, it could have been a home birth and didn't go as they planned. It could be a C-section, you know, whatever it is. Staphysagria is a great remedy for just like birth trauma. And it doesn't have to be this traumatic experience, but maybe it was just something that didn't go as planned and you're still kind of coping with that process. That can be really supportive and like emotionally helping you ease through those feelings that you're feeling. And that's what I think is is great. It's not going to make those feelings completely go away. Like you take it and you're like, yeah, I don't care about that anymore, right?
Right.
It helps ease you through that process of like, okay, like, you know, I understand the situation that happened and I'm moving through it with more grace. And I think that's, you know, especially in the birth realm, that's where I'm so passionate, because obviously we struggled with our own fertility journey, but then you look at pregnancy and postpartum and it's such a like precious time. And I feel like I grew so much through that experience. And I have like an incredibly supportive family, and I'm so grateful for that. And also just, you know, the emotional changes and all of that occurs. I think I don't know what I would do without homeopathy. And that's why I'm like, for somebody to have something to lean on when they feel like they need support that can bring that relief and help. I'm like, you know, I want to share that with the world as much as I can.
Well, I'm even thinking, I didn't realize this until after, I mean, years down the road with our son's birth, but that a lot of the mental weight and mental load or postpartum depression, anger, some of those things could have been solved through a nutrient focused, like energetic solution, which, like, you know, you don't know what you don't know, but it makes me curious if outside of the postpartum mental realm, specifically for women in postpartum, for the women that are struggling with some form of mental illness, would this be maybe a first stop?
Absolutely. And I think we think of times too, like we'll even ask in consults, have you had a situation where you've never been well since? And maybe it's not like well physically, but more like, oh, I remember this was a super hard time in my life, whatever situation it was. Maybe it was like a birth trauma, and you just felt like, every time I talk about that situation, I feel this heaviness or this like, you know, it brings me to tears, or I get choked up. I get this frog in my throat. Those are your signals from your body saying that you are still holding on to something about that situation. And with something like homeopathy, it can work on this energetic level to release those emotional blocks where you can look back and say, you know, that situation happened and that's a part of my journey. And I'm going to support my body through, you know, working through that experience. And I think even if you think, I don't know if you've read the book, The Body Keeps Score, but our body can hold on to these emotions. It creates those physical symptoms, and it could definitely be related. So even if somebody were to say, oh, I remember like that experience was traumatic or really, really hard, I still have a hard time with it. It doesn't matter if you're 99 or you just experienced it today. That can help to support through that. And I think especially now, and I'm obviously in more of that birth space, and I see it all the time of, you know, people grieving or experiencing this traumatic situation and just trying to get through it, right? You have this newborn and you're trying to care for them and you're just trying to survive that day, right? You're trying to get up and just, let me make it through today. And for people to know that it doesn't have to be like that, and you can have support. And I'm not going to say like homeopathy is not something you take and you're like, immediately
it's all gone.
Better. There's also, right, like I said, it helps you through that process. But and for some people it is. Some people, you know, a homeopath that's local to me, she's much older, but she said that she got into homeopathy because her midwife, she was 3 days postpartum and she was just in a horrible position, like mentally, feeling all of it. And her homeopath had gave her a remedy, and she was like, I feel like this weight lifted off of me, like this shift. My head was in this constant cycle of like, oh, less than survival, like just trying to get by. And she was like, something like whatever that was, it just, I had this massive shift. And that's how she got into homeopathy. So, you see all these stories of how people find homeopathy, and we always say homeopathy finds you, like it's when you're in that moment, somehow you're exposed to homeopathy and, it can create that shift for you. But we see a lot of people go from Western medicine to that holistic health space or homeopathy, but we really see it go the other way. And there's a reason for that,
Yeah. Well, what would you say to the women, I think on both sides of the spectrum, because you just painted that picture perfectly, of either, are just leaving allopathic medicine, they had this experience, trauma, something didn't resonate well with them, and they're looking for the answer. But then you also have the holistic, well-nourished, well-informed, researched mama, but maybe this is too woo-woo. This is, this is just a woo-woo solution. What would you say to both of those audiences in an encouragement to approach this in an open-minded way?
Yes. So, and I've been on both sides of the spectrum, so I completely understand. It doesn't matter where you're coming from. I feel like what's most important is trust your body. So whatever symptoms are arising, beyond just, is it Western? Is it too woo-woo? Where are we falling? I think it's, trust that your body, the signals it's sending you, it's communicating with you. And how can we support that? We know nutrition, like that's just the foundation for where we're at. We know nutrition can be supportive, but also I would just say, I think, like, I don't know. I don't know how to fully answer that question. I would say,
well, do you have an experience outside of your fertility? Because I know that that's something in our own story that we can resonate with, but maybe it's you tried to remedy with your son, or you had this experience with your client, that you were able to see the transformation.
Absolutely. So, my own experience for sure, right? I've tried all the things. I tried homeopathy, and within the 2 months that my husband and I both took homeopathy, the changes that we had noticed were so significant, so stark, that it wasn't minute changes that we noticed.
Okay.
My cervical mucus completely increased, night and day. My periods had completely shifted. My husband was dealing with some gut issues, and he noticed significant changes, and it was that quick for us. And depending on where you're at too, so with homeopathy, it can work very quickly. If you're working through a lot, it can take a little bit longer.
Sure.
But I would say, just my own experience, and then with clients that I've seen, I've had, 2 stories I'll note. I had a client who, her husband had been dealing with this rash on and off, eczema. He's like, yeah, we've gone to several doctors. We've tried everything. I use this ointment on it. I don't expect it to get better, just
sure.
That's kind of what I'm dealing with on the side, not related to fertility. And those are all clues for us when you think oh, it's not related to fertility, X, Y, and Z. It completely cleared after going through fertility. They conceived.
No
they
way.
Had been trying for 3.5 years. And, had 2 miscarriages through that time. And now they're 30 weeks pregnant. And, that's just a prime example of that. Another case I had, a couple had 3 miscarriages and came to me for homeopathic support. As she was going through the homeopathy, she had noticed this tissue pass, and it was not during her menstrual cycle. It was not during ovulation. It was just in between the window. She noticed this almost like ping pong size wall of tissue pass. And to a normal person, right? They're like, what the heck is going on? What is this? And that next month she had conceived, and she said, I feel like that right? Homeopathy is working to heal the body. It's getting rid of things that no longer serve the body. So through that process, we'll see a lot of increase of, sweat or, using the restroom, right? It's trying to get everything out of the body. But the menstrual cycle is another big one, right? That's a drainage pathway. So we're going to see sometimes when my fertility clients start homeopathy, they'll see like, oh, my last period was a bit clottier than before, heavier. We'll notice this increase in those drainage pathways. Anyway, this was a form that came out for her. And if you think about it, what was all that tissue doing in there? And she thinks it was related to her miscarriages and still kind of like left over. And, and we don't have all the specific answers for that, but whatever that was no longer
served. Yeah.
And we were able to rid it. And that next month she had conceived. So there's so many stories of, when you think of like rashes or conditions or, oh, I've dealt with this for years. I've tried all the things. They always say the acronym TEETH in homeopathy, and it's try everything else, try homeopathy, because usually when people come to us, it's not, hey, I want to give homeopathy a try. It's here's the 12 different things I've tried. Like, this is my last resort option. And, people are really desperate when they get to that point of, I want a natural option. I don't really know about homeopathy, but I've heard from a friend, I've heard from X, Y, and Z that it worked for them. So I'm willing to give it a try. And I think that's usually who finds me. And that's the biggest compliment, right? A referral, somebody who's like, wow, that really made a difference. And, so I'm very passionate about homeopathy, and it's the things that I've seen it do in such a small time frame is incredible.
No, for sure. I mean, even just me hearing these stories should encourage the critics, right? Yeah. Especially if you've been in the holistic realm for any number of time, to understand that like having an individualized approach, having someone that knows you intimately, can walk with you intimately through emotional, physical things would make all the difference. So Marisa, this has been awesome. How do we get connected? How can we share you as the first line of defense, not the last resort?
Yeah, awesome. Yes, you can find me at motherbloomcollective.com. And also on Instagram at motherbloomcollective. And I offer a fertility service. So that includes both partners and your individualized protocol. I also offer a hormonal protocol. So this could be for somebody who maybe you weren't trying to conceive, maybe you just got off birth control, you just want to find hormone balance, right? You've tried all the things, your period is really short, it's too long, it's, whatever it may be, that can help bring regulation. And if you think of like hormonal acne, weight gain, all of that, this can help to support the body through that. And then I see clients for chronic conditions, so something completely unrelated to fertility. And then I'm also available for acutes. So if you're like, I'm brand new to homeopathy, my son is sick, I don't know what the heck to use or how to use it, but I want to try something else, you can book an appointment for that. But I do recommend getting a kit. So like I said, I put together a medicine kit so that you can have it on hand, and that will really arm you. Like, I'm happy to help support through acutes if you want to book an appointment, but as you really get comfortable with it, I think those kits can be super helpful, because you'll have all the key remedies on hand, and then a booklet with all the information, like how to dose, what remedy, etc. So that's some of like my current offerings.
Perfect. Which is so much better than trying to wander your Whole Foods store and reading all the little pamphlets to see just how much of, am I really feeling nauseous and a headache? Or,
Right.
So Marisa, this has been so sweet. This has just been a wealth of wisdom. So I'm curious to how you'll answer our closing question, but if you could provide any wisdom to your younger self or for a community that is listening, what would you share?
I would say, trust your body. Trust your body it's communicating to you, and it's always working for you. When you have those debilitating symptoms where you're like, what the heck? My body's malfunctioning. It's not working. Like, why isn't this working?
Right.
It is. It's protecting you. It's helping you. It's always working for you no matter what. And those signals, those symptoms that go off are a call to address something deeper. But I think we're so quick to, this is wrong with my body. And words hold power, right?
Yeah,
words,
you're right.
You're capable, you're strong. Trust your body, lean into that, and know that you always have other options available, no matter what, especially in the fertility space. If you've been told some heavy diagnosis or, you know, your chances of conceiving are 1%, you know,
right.
The body can heal, and you just have to find the right support, and you will see things just completely change. So that is that's my tip for today. Trust your body.
I love that. And you have just been a wealth of wisdom. And I know that you're serving so many women that wouldn't find healing and restoration otherwise. So thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Thanks so much, Raina.
And we will see you guys on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening, friend. If today's episode resonated with you, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. It helps our community grow, and I'd be so grateful for your support. Looking for a break from the hurried health lifestyle? Check out my Return to Rest ebook for simple healing habits. And if you're craving a more intentional community, join Restore, the healing collective for the weary woman, a space where we dive into rest with a lens of faith and regular accountability. For more wellness inspiration, follow along at Instagram at WiselyWell or visit livingwiselywell.com for everything from podcast episodes to budget-friendly tips. Thanks again for being part of this community, and I'll see you in the next episode.